So TCS, India's largest software exporter, became the second Indian company to cross the 10 lakh crore rupee market cap mark. It's quite a milestone, and my colleagues Chandra Srikanth and Poonam Sane have tracked TCS's journey from the investor perspective. Take a look.
Software major TCS became the second Indian company to cross a market cap of rupees 10 lakh crore, making it another feather in the cap for one of the country's most profitable companies and one of the biggest employers in the private sector. TCS, which became the second company after Reliance Industries to achieve this feat, said it will consider a buyback this Wednesday, in line with its long-term capital allocation policy of returning excess cash to shareholders. What started out as a division of Tata Sons in April 1968 is today one of India's most successful and respected companies. It is 52 years old, a feat that few technology companies have managed to achieve globally. In fact, TCS's record as a wealth creator stands tall when compared to its peers in the IT pack. Research from ET Now shows that TCS has given the best returns since it listed among large caps when compared to peers such as Infosys, HCL, Tech Mahindra and Wipro. Tech Mahindra got listed in August 2006, so the returns have been calculated from that date. Analysts attributed TCS's obsession with driving processes at scale and a stable management that embodied the Tata culture as key reasons for its continued success. In its over 50-year history, TCS has had just 4 CEOs: F.C. Kohli, S. Ramadurai, N. Chandrasekaran and Rajesh Gopinathan, at a time when its rivals saw multiple succession issues and cultural clashes with external candidates. While analysts say TCS has perhaps been one of the most conservative when it comes to acquisitions, this has also helped it retain culture even as it scaled in terms of revenues and headcount. It ended FY20 with a revenue base of $22 billion and has over 4.43 lakh employees. It's been one of India's best performing stocks and is also one of the highest dividend contributors to the Tata Group, earning it the moniker Tata's Cash Surplus. It's also been a trendsetter in entering new markets such as LATAM and Japan, investing in platforms and adopting work from home at scale, with an ambitious target to have only 25% of its workforce work from office by 2025. While TCS's winning formula of processes with scale and a steady management helped it retain leadership for over 50 years, it remains to be seen what the post-COVID years and disruptions in digital hold for the crown jewel of the Tata Group. With Poonam Sane, Chandra Srikanth, ET Now, Bengaluru.
All right, so there has been a spate of good news, I think, after a long time for the Indian economy. And we made a mention on this on the India Development Debate on Thursday as well. Right on top of the show when we were talking about high frequency indicators coming in. Now, the question is, how sustainable are these high frequency indicators and are we really seeing a change? So just to quickly take you through some of the things that have come up. So auto sales are looking good. Once again, the last 3 months, in fact, have been good and in some cases and for some companies even better when compared to last year. So it's not just from the low base of what happened in April and May in India during the lockdown. The PMI index, which gives you a sense of manufacturing in the country, is up. There's a huge improvement there, highest in about 8 years. GST collections have been good for the month of September and have consistently been rising. Those are some of the indicators. There's a note earlier today from HDFC saying that their numbers for loan growth in September have been very, very good even compared to last year, and they're having a steady uptick over there. Rail freight numbers have been good among other things. Your e-way bills have been good. So are we seeing a turning point? Are we turning the corner, or is it just too early to come to that conclusion? To speak on this, I'm joined now by consulting editor ET Now Maithili Bhusnumat and top economist DK Joshi. Welcome to both of you. Mr. Joshi, let me start with your point of view on this, because we've had a conversation a few weeks ago on the state of the economy. There have been indications that we'll contract anywhere between 10 to 15% this year on a whole in the Indian economy. How do you look at the month of September? Is it one sweet September, or is it one off?
Well, I think, when you start opening up, the economic activity rebounds. I would say that it's rebounded faster than I would have expected. But having said that, I think till the time virus is around, I don't think we can have a sustained recovery. It will be a non-linear kind of a pickup. It will go up, it will come down. I think the experience of China, for instance, I think where consumption, etc., have also started picking up. I think the reason is that they have virus under control. So till the time we have a vaccine, till the time it is found to be effective, and till the time it is mass distributed, I think we will live in some zone of uncertainty, and that will not allow us to normalize completely. Although, as you said, there is good news on the virus front, because recoveries now are more than the new cases. So as a result, I think the total caseload increase is not that much. And on the economy front, you already talked us through a number of variables. I think it's not a uniform nationwide recovery. I mean, the power consumption, if you talk about that, you'll find that it is largely coming from states like UP and Madhya Pradesh. But if you look at the industrial states like Tamil Nadu or Karnataka or even Maharashtra, the growth is year on year is either negative, or it is just close to zero or flat. So clearly, I think this is to be taken with a pinch of salt. And the virus has shown that it surges. I think we have seen the experience of Europe, where I think it was down about 2 months back and then has again resurfaced. And India also, I think the larger cities, metropolitan cities, where it was under control, I think they again saw the resurgence of virus. So till the time I think we have it completely under control, we will remain in an uncertain or an uncharted territory. And I would say that the recovery will be in some sense non-linear and maybe to some extent even unpredictable. Having said that, I think our assessment for the second quarter is that the growth GDP will fall, but it will fall much lower than what we saw in the first quarter, and we still expect minus 12% GDP growth. Most of the indicators we are talking about are non-service sector. I think the services where you have face-to-face contact, etc., I think they still are regulated quite tightly, and I think even the people's willingness to take those services, I think, will be very low. So I think, and services are still a large part of the economy. So I would say that overall we are in a somewhat better situation than in the first quarter. But I think it's still you need to keep your fingers crossed.
You know, I think the big takeaway there is that take it with a pinch of salt. Maithili, would you agree that we need to see some solid, steady sort of indications of an improvement at this time to really go out and say that, we're turning a corner?
Oh, well, absolutely. I think Dr. Joshi has put it very well. Things are better than before, but we're certainly not out of the woods. And if you look at the data, not all the data is really very much better, because things like core sector, IIP, these are areas where we still have negative growth, contraction. And as Dr. Joshi mentioned, services is one area where we're not really seeing any movement at all. And given that services account for a very significant part of our GDP, much more than either manufacturing or agriculture, more close to 60% of our GDP comes from the services sector, I think it's much, much too early to say that we're out of the woods. It'll take a long time, I think, particularly because we really haven't seen or we're not sure that we really have passed the peak as far as COVID cases are concerned. And all over the world, we are seeing resurgence, and places like Europe, Britain, etc. We are seeing not lockdowns, but restrictions coming back in place. And if those restrictions, we also have to impose those kind of restrictions, then I'm afraid the economy will not be able to show any kind of sustained improvement. So for now, I think it's much too early. We have to hold our horses, reserve our judgment on whether the recovery is sustained. At the moment, I would think not.
You know, on the flip side, Mr. Joshi, if you look at it this way, the numbers in India have been growing, and though our active cases are actually now not growing at such a large pace, so that is another data point to look at where the coronavirus cases are going in India. But the fact is that we've been opening up consistently, even as the cases have been rising. We haven't let the rise in case hamper us after the months of July when those localized lockdowns were happening. Do you think that we are now at that stage where we're ready to live with the virus, and the chances of reversal in opening up the economy or access to goods and services is less likely now? I mean, really, can we get worse than this in the number of cases? We seem to have it under control relatively.
Well, I think right now it is under control, but as I said earlier, I think till the time you have the antidote, the vaccine, I think the only medicine that is available is through containment. I mean, and through wearing masks, and I think restricting activities where I think you come into close contact. And I think the month of October is a festive month. I think that will be a test for, what we see after that. I think typically Europe started seeing a surge after they opened up and people started going on holidays, etc. Now, I think so month of October, I would say, I think you need to watch it out very closely. And the Indian population density is quite high. I mean, so till now, I think the number of cases per million, I think, are much, much lower than what we have globally. So I think if so there is a scope for resurgence. This is one area which I really don't understand. I can only tell you if it resurges what might happen to the economy. But I think going by the experience of other economies, I would still hold my horses as to whether we have passed the peak. Looks like from the data that the COVID curve is now flattening, but it did flatten in many other parts of the world and again came back. So, but yeah, I think as far as the containment is concerned, we would not have the same kind of containment as we had in April. We will see somewhat diluted version of that, some restriction here and some restriction there. If the medical overload kind of goes out of hand or spins out of control, so that in other words, I think you will see some restrictions getting imposed, but it will not be like what we had in April, because people, I think, are learning gradually how to learn how to live with the virus, so to say, and manage their lives while taking abundant precaution. I mean, to a great extent. So I think, and workforce mobility, I think people going back to work is not happening at a large scale in many of the white collar areas. I mean, particularly in the private sector, for instance, I think many firms will take a longer time to open up. So I would keep my fingers, as I said, fingers crossed on until the time we have virus under control. I think we will live in some zone of uncertainty. And if the virus load continues, even today we are adding on a daily basis. Probably we have the highest number of accretions to the global increase. The more you get into this, I think your buffers keep eroding as you get deeper and deeper with this kind of a scenario, and the activity becomes more and more non-linear, so to say. So wait for the vaccine to be completely sure, or you have control over the virus just as China has, and so it is seeing its even service activity pick up now. I think the most recent data shows. Without that, I don't think, we can revert back to, we'll remain, our assessment is we'll remain a 90% economy this year, which I think minus 9% is what we are expecting as far as GDP is concerned. And that forecast remains unchanged, even with this information.
Okay. No, but fair enough, because, as we said in the beginning of this particular discussion, 1 September cannot really change the picture. The question is just to ask if we're truly looking more stable than we did earlier, whether it's because we've learned to live with the virus, we've figured out that we need to get on with our lives, is the second question. But Maithili, the bigger question is that are consumers going to come out and spend? We've all talked about how hopes are being pinned on the festive season, and that requires consumers to want to come out and spend, want to come out and go to restaurants that have opened or to movie halls that have opened.
Well, it's not just a question of only wanting to come out. The fact is that jobs have been lost. So there must also be incomes in order to sustain that demand. So I think there are two questions. Yeah. One, do people have the incomes? They don't. Many jobs have been lost. Not enough jobs are being created even now. Many people have not returned. Those who fled migrant labor that fled from the cities has not returned entirely. So there is a question of genuine income loss. Add to that the fact that people are worried about whether they will continue to have those jobs. So they do not want to spend. And third, there is worry, anxiety about going out into crowded areas, because typically if you've seen what Indian festivals are like, there are gatherings, you have melas, you have people rushing to the markets. So even that is not going to happen. So I do not think you will see demand returning anywhere near what you see normally during festive season. So yes, the second quarter is likely to be better than the first quarter of the current fiscal, but that is not saying much. So until such time as we really sure we are able to contain the disease, and that is a big, big question mark, or until we get a vaccine, I don't think you're going to find the economy recovering anywhere near what our potential or on a sustainable path. So as of now, I think it's completely open. Glass is half full, half empty, depending on which way you want to look at it. Yes, each successive quarter might be better than the previous, but it will certainly not be anywhere comparable to what it was in the comparable quarter of the previous year. And that is where we really need to get to. Because even last year, we did not have a very good growth. You're not going to see investment return. You're not going to see jobs or demand return. So as of now, I think we'll have to really reserve our judgment and keep our fingers crossed.
Well, fair enough. We will have to wait and see if there is more to it than 1 September of a turnaround. Our eye will be on the data very, very carefully. But at least we can say we've come to half full. We're in a better position than we were in August, where it seemed like the growth recovery had gone a little off track. We'll have to wait and see if we sustain into October, November. And does the festive season really bring cheer, or is it being overemphasized as something that will be the savior for Indian companies and the Indian economy? Keep watching this space. Thank you so much, Maithili and Mr. Joshi, for joining us on the discussion this evening.